So, friends, we are discussing about the negative points, what you should not do. I will come forward with some more points in the negative. Don't be biased. Don't be biased to the topic. Don't be biased to any individual. Don't even be biased to the group. You should take it as a game which you are playing. You have been given a set of groups, players to play with, and you have been given a topic. That means it's a tool to play with, and now you are playing with it. So, never be biased, because your biasness gives a negative indication to the evaluator. Then, don't be dogmatic. Never be rigid. Never. You should be flexible. You should be accommodative. If you are contesting anything, then you should say with logic. You should not sound to be inflexible. You should be really flexible. There is no harm in a group discussion if somebody has said a point which is better than you and you appreciate. In fact, you earn more points than the person who has raised a good point. If you appreciate and if your point also had been good, then evaluator finds that you are doubly positive, that you have said a right point before and then he is also appreciating a right point now uttered. Okay? So, never be rigid, never be dogmatic. Then comes excited. Group discussion is a game plan, and in a game it is always said any game, any excitement is negative for a game. Whatever it is, you can never be excited. You should have that composure, that personality, that you don't get excited. You are very level headed. Be level headed during the group discussion, and you try to discuss the points. Listen to everybody, pay attention to everyone. Take a lead from there. If you want to add something to it, you do it. If you want to corroborate it, you do it. But never get excited. Even, like say somebody is repeating your points, you don't get excited, say, I said that, I've heard. In a group discussion, if somebody has said a point and another person is referring to the same point, then this point gets excited. I already said it. It's my point he is saying. It's an excitement. Never. Your emotional control is your real strength during the group discussion. You don't know in which way you are being evaluated. This is the interesting thing of it, and there is no grammatical rule really. What I am putting the points forward over here is from my experiences and also learning from various researchers that this goes on, because the psychological things are not very clearly demonstrated through any mathematical derivations. All these things are nothing but a play of psychology. Okay? How you manifest, how you speak, how you put your point forward, how you contest. So, always try to see that during the group discussion your composure doesn't get spoiled or broken. Then the last word syndrome. You remember I said the first speaker syndrome, there are some in the groups who want to speak first. In conferences you will always find that there are some question asking syndrome. That means there are some in the conference I have found that whatever is the topic that is being discussed, when the chairman will ask any question from the house, this person will raise his finger. And if you raise your finger more than 3 times, then you should be ready also with a point like say chairman saying you have been asking too many questions, so you don't ask any questions. Anybody else has a question? That means it's a question asking syndrome he is suffering from, and he is trying to, it is not that he is eager to learn about this, he is eager to get a clarification from this. Basically he is trying to draw attention of everybody that he is there. Okay? So, this similar here, the last word syndrome. There are some people, they always in a group discussion, they always suffer from the last word syndrome. Last word syndrome is something like say when after that nobody speaks and the person thinks that he won because there is nobody speaking after that and nobody is contesting anymore, and the last speaker syndrome has few things playing in the mind. Let me tell you that. The last speaker or the last word syndrome thing, in which the person who is least ready with the points, they will try to buy maximum time, and just to buy maximum time what he does is he listens to everybody and he keeps on collecting his points and starts framing his points, and then finally he speaks with the points. When he speaks, he thinks that he is saying all the right things, he is also discarding all the negative things. It's just like, as I said, for the bureaucrat or the chairman who is conducting a group discussion to take a decision. In such cases, when the chairman in a boardroom speaks last, he is authorized to speak last, because he is the person who is finally going to draw down the resolution of the discussion. So, he is bound to be the last person speaking, and if he doesn't, then the discussion does not lead to a good conclusion. Same is for the administrative bureaucrats. When he is invited lots of decision makers to deliberate on an issue, then it is a responsibility that he draws a resolution and says, this is what is finally derived out of the entire discussion. These are the points I have noted down, and these are the points which are going to follow, these we are not going to follow. That is a protocol, that is his job. But in the group discussion, here the last word syndrome, if somebody always remains quiet, takes everybody's points because he was unprepared, and then he makes his point. In the group, you can always make out those last word syndrome persons. And interestingly, if suppose he is asked that, would you ask any question or you have any points, he will say, I will speak later. He may say, let him speak, I will say later. Only thing is, whenever you find that this person in different meetings or in such group discussions always speaks the last, then you should always take it for granted he is the least prepared. Okay? So, you should not suffer from last word syndrome. Today you might be speaking on something which is the last word, tomorrow it should be the first word, or the day after it may be the middle word, the middle level syndrome. So, these things, some people they do not have the courage to start a dialogue, and some people do not have the courage to conclude. So, as I am saying that the first speaker syndrome is negative, the last word syndrome is also negative, and being somewhere in between is also negative. Now, where you should be, in fact, you should be such expert that if necessary you can start a dialogue, if necessary you should be able to conclude a dialogue, and if necessary you can always speak in the center, in the middle. So, you should have all round ability of communications in which you are going to reflect your skill. If you are nervous, it shows on your face, it shows on your hand shakes like this, the way I am showing. Sometimes I have seen that people, hand is on the table and it shakes like this. Face is all right, but the hand shakes, you can make out. And in fact, if I am an evaluator, I will be watching everybody. I will be watching everybody's body gestures, I will be watching everybody's hands, eyes, lips, and then how he speaks. Everybody is being watched, as I said. So, never be nervous. See, you may be wrong, but do not be nervous. If you are nervous, you have lost the battle before you went for the interview. And why? Out of that 10 persons in a GD, only 2 persons are shortlisted for final interview, because the other 8 persons always found to be negative in some point or the other. Okay? And these 2 persons who have been now shortlisted have found to be more positive compared to others. Do not be withdrawn. This is another very serious thing taken as a negative. Withdrawn something like, in the discussion, if you find that you are losing your points, then in that case, okay, I am not going to give any more opinion because you are not listening to me, and you decide whatever you want to do. This is a kind of withdrawn statement. In many meetings, when somebody cannot contest the others' clarifications or cannot answer others' clarifications or cannot contest the other points because their points are so logically strong and better than the person who has said these points, generally he withdraws. There are 2 ways of withdrawing. One is remaining quiet, suddenly becoming quiet. That is one way of withdrawing. That means you said your point. I am just giving an example with respect to, say, me. I have said my points, and I found the people are not accepting my points. I can remain quiet henceforth. In the whole episode of the group discussion, I will remain quiet. This is one way of withdrawing. I will be watched that I have withdrawn. And when there is a point I should say, but since I have withdrawn, I am not going to say my points. I am not going to offer my points, which is positive. This is one way of withdrawing. The second way of withdrawing is by shouting, by being aggressive. And this is double negative. If you quietly withdraw yourself, it is still all right, can be acceptable. But if you, with aggressiveness you say, I do not agree with you, so I am not going to talk on this particular issue. You do whatever you want, you follow your points, I do not want to comment anything on this. This is aggressiveness. This is another way of withdrawing, very negative. In fact, this is double negative. So, withdrawn is a negative impression. And then comes the positive impressions. Why I have given the negative impression first? See, it is always better to see the worst parts and then see how it can be improved. The positive impressions. If in the group discussion you say anything or you approve something with a smile, it's positive because they are watching you. If you are, that does not mean that every time you will be smiling like a fool. No. Your smile should be only supported whenever it's necessary. But otherwise, I have seen some people always, sitting amongst a group will give a sweet smile all through. I said this earlier. If somebody is always smiling in a group discussion, then it looks like a fool. Don't have to smile every time. At the same time, don't give half smile. You remember I said that in smile, in your gestures, in your grooming, that don't give half smile. Don't give bent smiles, the lips bent. Don't give disagreement smile. You approve anything with a smile. You say with a smile. Corroborative. If you corroborate somebody else's points, that means you are supporting his points. That does not mean that you have lost and he won. You are basically corroborating his points. It's positive. It's taken as a positive impression. If you want to disapprove somebody's point, that means you are corroborating with a smile or approving with the smile is positive. But if you are disapproving somebody's point, that too with a smile is positive. It simply gives you double benefits. One is you are a smiley person, a sober person. At the same time, you also have the courage and the knowledge or the logic to disapprove, double positive. Then comes interjection, raising finger. This is a point which I wanted to say before, I just held it myself. If you want to interject or interrupt, raise your finger. Keep it raised for some time so that everybody can understand. And that I will suggest, since I have seen many such kind of manifestations, never raise your finger something like this that people don't notice because you are hiding. You raise your finger on the table, putting your elbow on the table in such a manner that everybody can see your finger, that you are raising your finger. If you are raising your finger, that means you are trying to draw everybody's attention, and whoever is speaking, definitely once he watches your finger, he will fumble and he will stop, likely to stop. Okay? You want to interject. So, if you raise your finger and interject, it's positive. If you be supportive all through the discussion, it's positive. So, when you are talking about the negative aspects of it, try to be positive as much as you can. And the other points, like there are certain demerits. These demerits, I won't term them as negatives, but there are certain things which are considered to be demerits of a quality of a person who is participating in the group discussion. If somebody is irrelevant in terms of his logic, his points in facts and figures, it's a demerit for him. Okay? If somebody is disagreeing something beyond reasons, that means he doesn't have a sufficient reason to disagree, it's a demerit of that particular person. If I say the demerit is nothing but another set of negative impressions that's created because of this. If somebody is irrelevant, somebody is putting their points irrelevantly, if he is not in focus, if he is out of focus, if he is out of context, if he is beating around the bush of the topic but not really focusing onto the topic, it's irrelevance, and that will bring demerits, okay, negative impressions. And if you are disagreeing, you have the right to disagree, because that's a game plan. But if you are disagreeing beyond reasons, then it's again negative. If you are dominating, it's a demerit. Never dominate. Befriend. You see, in a group discussion among friends, do you always land up in a fight? No. You are discussing among friends. You remain friends when you are splitting after the discussion is over. You are only contesting each other with your points, your knowledge, your background knowledge, your feedbacks, your inputs, your outputs. Okay? So, never be dominating. Nobody wants, even amongst a friend circle, nobody wants a dominating friend. If there is somebody who is treated as a dominating friend, then he will never be invited for any kind of group discussion. Any kind of group discussion should be very harmonious, multifaceted, oblique viewpoints oriented, and with a wider spectrum of knowledge and exposure. That's excellent. But if somebody dominates just by virtue of their position, or by virtue of their physique, or by virtue of their personality, then it's negative. Don't be impatient. during group discussion, sometimes I found people become impatient, like say, trying, that shows, in the hands. He's trying to, hand gestures will show that he is looking for an opportunity, but he is not getting it. Impatience shows with the hands, with the palms, with the shoulder, with the head movements. Impatience shows. Your impatient attitude is negative. Ignorance about the topic is the first negative. Here, you'll see, as I said, quite often I have put the points in an alphabetical order. Here it is coming in alphabetical order. If I would have put this in a natural order, then ignorance about topic would have been the first demerit. Okay, ignorance of the topic means in the group discussion you have been floated a topic and you want to discuss, but you don't know anything about it, any hair and tail about it. Now you want to participate in it. See, one smart way is that you speak very little, and another smart way is you saying that, okay, in this topic I don't have much knowledge. As it is going to be negative if you speak rubbish, and you cook up your points, it's going to be negative. So it is sober to say that I am not really conversant with this particular issue or topic, so I may not be able to contribute. But however, I can try to configure this or to understand this particular viewpoint with whatever little knowledge I have. Can I continue? They immediately will find everybody will say, please go ahead, you say what you want to say, but certainly don't say rubbish. Okay? This is how your ignorance about the topic may put you in real trouble, and that is why the first point I said in the group discussion is always try to be knowledgeable about, at least acquainted about the world scenarios, the current topics, the social issues, the economic issues, and the current affairs. So if you are regularly reading the newspapers or watching the TV, at least essentially the media news, then it is quite likely that you will not be suffering from this, that you will not be ignorant about any topic that comes into your forte. At least you will be able to contribute. Then comes losing temper. Never lose temper. You become aggressive. You become aggressive when you are being contested, and more you become aggressive and people more and more verges on you, then you lose your temper. And if you lose your temper, treat it for granted that you are not going to be shortlisted, because nobody wants a loose-tempered person or a hot-tempered person in the team. Forget about this 30 minutes or 60 minutes of group discussion. Nobody wants them in their life. Nobody wants them in their company. Nobody wants them in their department. So losing temper is one of the very strong negative things. Then comes non-participation. I said quiet earlier. Remaining quiet is negative. That means you don't want to speak. You are remaining quiet. So automatically you are treated as negative personality in the group discussion. And sometimes you be quiet not by virtue of your nature. You just don't want to participate. If you don't want to participate, then don't sit for the group discussion. And if you sit for the group discussion, you cannot afford to be non-participating. You have to participate. You have to participate because in the group discussion, everybody has to participate. When I'll talk about the verbal communication in my next lectures, in that I'll elaborate more on this, that such kind of communications like group discussions and all, it is always communication oriented. And in the verbal communication oriented, if it is verbal communication oriented, it cannot be done with one. And here, anybody who is non-participating in it is not a game player, is not a team player in that verbal communication game. Okay, this I'll highlight in the next lectures. So you cannot afford to be non-participating. Even if you want to speak little, do it. At least make your contribution. You be heard by others, and at least they should know what's your voice like. How do you sound when you speak? How good are you in English? If you don't want to participate, you can also declare saying that in this issue, since I am not very conversant with the topic, then it will become very difficult for me to participate in this. But however, then few sentences you utter, and then again you withdraw. But you withdraw with humility, you withdraw with soberness. That's still all right. But however, in general, if non-participation is not treated as positive for this. And poor communication skill, another demerit. See, you'll find again I have colored this with a different color, because I am focusing you towards a communication skill, which I'll talk about in the next episodes, the verbal communications. Poor communication skills is negative for group discussion, because in the group discussion you are being watched that how good you can communicate your points through your gestures, through your body language, and also through your verbal communication. Now, this is very, very important. When I'll talk about the rest of the points, you'll find that these communication skills will be taken care of. Next, I'll talk about the characteristics which are evaluated. I said about the demerits, I said about the negative qualities, but what characteristics are evaluated generally in a group discussion? I said this in some form or the other. Okay, here I'm coming to these points a little faster. What characteristics is evaluated? Your appearance, overall appearance, your poise, your stature, your height, your overall composure is going to be tested. It will be evaluated. Capacity to organize and present ideas means how do you, in the whole group discussion, how did you participate? What's your participation style? How did you organize the whole thing? Have you been participating in it? Have you been presenting your ideas well? These are being evaluated. Encouraging and compromising ability. That means here you are encouraging others to speak or participate, and you are also compromising a situation. If there's a time shortage, an example, let me tell you. If there's a time shortage and you find there are only two persons, you and another person left, there are two options. One is you grab the time and start speaking and see to it that the other person doesn't. There's another opportunity, another option is you can say that we have very little time in which both of us have to speak. So I'll first invite him to speak a few words so that I also get an opportunity to speak some points of mine. This is a very, very positive one. Alternative is that we have very little time in which both of us have to speak, and I'll try to be very brief so that he gets an opportunity to speak. Both positive. So here, encouraging others to speak, encouraging others to participate, these are, and compromising over time, and so that it is equally shared between you two, these are all positives. Then comes the emotional stability. Emotional stability is being watched. It's a very clear reflection through your body gestures, through your aggressiveness, through your speaking style, through your communicating with others. Okay, how is the emotional stability of the person when he is manifesting or performing during that given time? Then comes the ethical conduct. Ethical conduct is, ethics is something which I have discussed earlier, maybe very briefly. Ethics is what is right for that particular situation, what is appropriate for that particular situation, governed by the norms, social norms and traditions. Okay, so ethical conduct is somebody like, say, it is, giving respect to others is an ethical conduct. Not objecting to somebody when he is speaking, not interjecting somebody when he is speaking is an ethical conduct. Giving opportunity to another person when the time is short, just the last example I have given, when the time is short, giving also an opportunity to somebody else along with you is ethical conduct. So ethical conduct is, this characteristics is evaluated. General awareness based on knowledge. Intellectual attainments, this comes through your past experiences, past reading, past knowledge, past associations, the university that you have studied in, the culture of the university, culture of your family. It comes with everything. Intellectually, how much, at what level you are. It does not mean that your IQ level is very high, not necessary. IQ level is basically trying to measure your intelligence level. Okay, here it is not that intellectual level. It is the intellectual attainment, means what is the minimum level that you have reached which is going to be good for the company. Okay? And everybody wants to see at least the persons whom they are selecting, they are strong intellectually, not necessarily highly intellectual IQ oriented, because most often it is found that people having very high IQ, they have a different kind of world of their manifestations. Okay? And some people call that as eccentricity. That eccentricity is not negative. Eccentricity is basically focused in one particular direction. Here the intellectual attainment is overall intellectual attainment that you have got. Self-confident, how much the person is self-confident, that is also being watched. It's a positive characteristics which has to be assessed. If you remember I said the confidence level. The confidence level, if somebody is not very confident, his hand shakes. Okay, his eyelids, it flutters. These are some of the reactions, psychophysical reactions, which the psychologist or the physiologist, they will work it on. But it is seen. Somebody starts sweating. These are all manifestation of the poor confidence level. So, how much a person is self-confident? Self-confident, even sometimes we say somebody who is lying, he is lying with the self-confidence. That means so confidently lying. We said sometime we have found some friends, we have some friends who speak, who tell a lie very confidently, and we say, look how great he is telling a lie confidently. But that is having confidence is the positive in that, but telling a lie is a negative in that. That does not make him useful to the organization. Here I am saying the confidence, even not telling a lie and declaring that you don't know is the measure of your self-confidence. Take it for granted that your self-confidence level is a pure reflection of yourself. Okay, be careful about it and hold it. Hold your confidence. Whether you are going for interview, I said that during interview you must have your self-confidence. During GD also you must have your self-confidence. If somebody is contesting your point and you are trying to put forward the opposite points but not being able to, still you have to exercise your self-confidence. If you are contesting somebody else's point, do it with confidence. Okay? Self-confidence is a very, very interesting and important thing in your individual manifestation. Poise and bearing, I said this earlier as well. The poise is overall appearance of yours in terms of your get-up, in terms of your stature, in terms of your complexion, in terms of your attires, in terms of your movement. So, poise and the bearing. Bearing means how do you really manifest. See, you have been given a chair, all right. How you are sitting on the chair, how you are occupying your space, how you are manifesting within that given space, how you are manifesting the space that is given on the table, how you are manifesting with your hands, all together it's a bearing. Okay? And so, poise and bearing are characteristics which are evaluated. And the role playing behavior in the whole game, how do you play your role? See, you are out of the 10 participants, you are one of the speakers. And here when you are speaking, means how you are, your first one role is that you have to speak. The next role is you have to listen. The third role is you have to contest. The fourth role is you have to initiate. The fifth role is you have to interject. The sixth role is that you have to conclude. There are so many roles, and there may be a seventh role that you are how you encourage others to speak. There may be eighth role that you are compromising in terms of time sharing. There are so many roles to play, and every aspects of it are going to be watched by the evaluator. And group discussion, you don't think that you just simply do it and you have to kill the time. Group discussion is a very serious issue in which you are being assessed. And finally, in this group discussion, where I am saying the communication skills. Communication skills here is how do you really communicate. This communication skills through body language I have already discussed. I was holding on to the verbal communications to connect it with after this. The reason is that verbal communication is something in which you are going to speak and you are going to make an impression about yourself to the person whom you are going to speak to. The body language is, of course, in the presence of the group. Here in this communication skills, when I will be focusing on verbal communication skill, that means there has to be an involvement of one more person than you. That means there has to be a verbal communication can happen when there are more than one persons, because single person never verbally communicates to anybody. Verbal communication means you are speaking something to somebody. So, there has to be at least a pair, two persons or more than that. Okay. So, I will discuss about this verbal communication more in detail in my following lectures. And then when I will talk about the verbal communication, I will give you clues there, gradually dragging you down to the negotiations. Okay. So that the things which are likely to follow now after this in the following lectures, one is that how do you verbally communicate, and then how do you negotiate, and then how do you go for marketing, that means sales and marketing. And finally, I will discuss about how to manage your time with respect to everything. Then the whole course will be concluded accordingly. So, dear friends, read through this, go through this, try to understand, try to analyze, try to even find out examples which I have given. If you have ever experienced this, try to draw examples from your own experiences to corroborate these observations, and then try to be a perfect person as far as practicable. Okay? Thank you very much.